If you listened to episode 437, you heard tonight's guest Jason Corona talk about the Dogman encounters he and his dog Scooter had. Well, since that episode aired, he decided to become a full-fledged Dogman researcher, and that's what he's come here to talk about tonight. Jason, welcome to the show.
How are you, Vic?
Well, I'm out of sorts right now, but I am getting better, so that's a good thing. How about yourself? How are you?
I've been busy. I've been really busy. Yeah, I've been doing well. Been doing a lot of investigating and stuff like that. So I've been pretty busy since I talked to you last time. So yeah.
Well, that's just job security, isn't it?
You're right.
Yeah, if you're just sitting around doing nothing, then that could definitely be a problem. Jason, for people who missed that show where you came on and told us about your encounters, please tell those listeners about yourself.
My name is Jason Corona. I live in San Francisco, California. I'm 44. I now full-time research Dogman related topics and stuff. So that's me in a nutshell.
You recently decided to become a Dogman researcher, like you just touched on, of course. What made you decide to do that?
Well, I started investigating stuff like that a long time ago, but I didn't really take it to heart like I do now. And I didn't take it as serious then as I do now. It's just the encounters that I've had have really encouraged me to take the stuff more serious and see if I could help folks in any way possible.
That's awfully admirable. Yeah, that says a lot about your character right there. You recently created a Dogman Research Organization called Dogman Study. Please tell us about it.
Well, the organization is called Dogman Study, and it is called Dogman Study on Facebook, and on YouTube it is called Dogman Study and News. And basically, I investigate missing persons or recent attacks that have happened that could be Dogman related. People send me encounter stories as well. So I will read into those and see what I can learn and see how I can help them with the encounter that they went through.
Of the attacks that you've been researching that you just mentioned, of course, which one do you think is most likely to be a Dogman attack?
There is a recent one that just happened February of this year, so last month. And the attack happened to a 20-year-old hiker here in California. And what I found odd about this attack was the way that the body was found. The body was found bruised and bloody. And local law enforcement didn't suspect foul play, said that his death was accidental. And I just found that very odd. For some reason, that article really struck me, like really got to me. So I covered it on my YouTube channel. Yeah, so that one really stuck out as like, it could be either Dogman or Sasquatch. I'm not too sure, but the way that his body was discovered really got to me.
So his body was bruised and bloody, but they never discovered any slashes or bite wounds?
No, they didn't go into full detail as to the exact condition of his body, but his body was bruised and bloodied. So I'm thinking if his body was covered in blood, then there had to have been some like slash wounds. And he was only 22 years old, so he still had quite a life to live, and that was unfortunately taken from him, So my thoughts and my prayers really went out to his family and his friends that lost him. It's just a really sad case.
Yeah, it definitely is. That's horrible. For that to happen to anyone is bad, but being 22, yeah, that's still a baby.
Yeah, very young.
Definitely. Do you think Dogmen are kill you on sight monstrous machines or something else?
I don't think they are kill on sight. I think they are more like stalkers. I think they they stalk somebody, and if the opportunity presents itself and they can attack, then they do. I think for most of the part, that's what has happened in like cases like this.
If that's what makes them tick, how would you explain all the eyewitnesses that I've spoken with and other people have spoken with who are caught dead to rights by a dogman in a situation where no one would have ever known how they met their demise, but they were allowed to go without a single hair in their head being harmed?
That baffles me because my encounter was like that. And the best answer I can give is I really think it depends on the creature and how it's feeling at the moment, because they are opportunistic creatures, so I really just feel that it really depends on what that creature feels like doing at that moment.
Yeah, it just might be right about that. Now, I know you collect reports from eyewitnesses, but do you ever go into the woods and actually try to seek out encounters with dogmen?
Yes, I had an encounter with one last week. It was pretty trippy. I think it was a juvenile.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that is trippy. Then again, all dogman encounters are trippy, but please tell us about it. Tell us everything about what happened.
I was out doing an investigation in an area that I regularly go to look for footprints. And most of the time when I go to this area, I usually find quite a bit of like tracks out there. So I was looking for some tracks, and I found some, but right before I took out my phone and was going to take pictures, I had this feeling that there was something behind me. And I had my dog with me, and I turned around to face the direction where I felt that I was being watched. And there was this bush, probably about 6 feet tall. I don't recall what they're called, but they are pretty prominent here in San Francisco, especially along the like coastline and stuff. And the area that I was at was near the coastline. So I felt that something was in the bush, and I heard something moving through this like tree bush, and it's kind of a dense bush. It is tall like a tree, and I heard something moving through it, and then it stopped, and then probably about 30 seconds later, I heard 2 limbs snap. And it was probably about 10 feet in front of me. And I saw through the bush, it had its face real close. I saw its nose, and I saw its 2 really large black pupiled eyes. And it looked to be about 4 feet tall. And it was standing there just watching me. And then I slowly backed away and I left. So that's what happened there.
Holy cow, only 4 feet tall. So that's 4 feet on its back legs.
I think it was standing on its hind legs.
So that's a young one then.
I think it was juvenile because its face wasn't very large. Its nose was small. The eyes were a little bigger than that of a coyote's are. And so that's how I kind of just determined that what I saw was a juvenile. And that's not the only time that I've had interactions with what I think is a juvenile. I had a couple encounters with it, I believe, last year too. So yeah, it was pretty trippy.
Oh, I'm sure it was. Yeah, it's pretty rare to have a dogman encounter, but to see a juvenile like that, especially apparently by itself, that's even more strange. So yeah, that doesn't happen every day.
It was really strange because it was by itself. So I know there is a Sasquatch in that area. Well, I think it's a Sasquatch. So maybe something happened to its parents. I don't know. But anytime I have encountered it and didn't realize it at the time that that's what was going on, it was by itself.
Well, you just might be right. On episode 437, when you told us about your other dogman encounters you had before this one, Your dog was with you when you had them, but as you just said, he was with you again when you had this most recent one. What kind of dog did you say he is?
He was terrified. Scooter was really scared this time around because we were so close. Scooter started shaking like a little bit. So I slowly put him behind me to like shield him. And yeah, Scooter was not comfortable that entire encounter. It only lasted for about a minute, but Scooter was scared. He was shaking. He had his tail tucked. He's never done that before. So that's how I know that really happened and that creature was really there. So
on episode 437, you told us what kind of dog Scooter is, but I forgot. What kind is he?
Scooter is American Pit Bull mixture with Dalmatian.
How big is he?
Scooter is a medium-sized dog. He is about 51 pounds. So he is average sized.
Okay, yeah, that's far from a wimpy little dog. But then again, even the biggest, toughest dogs shake when these guys come around most of the time. So that doesn't make him any different from most dogs. Did he start to act strange before you realized that something wasn't right?
Yeah, he did. He started sniffing in that direction, and he kept staring. And he had this look on his face that I've never seen before. He had a look on his face like there's something there, and we need to go. Like he had a real look of concern, and I sort of tapped into it, but then I got back to wanting to take photos of these footprints I found. So I kind of ignored Scooter's alerts that he was giving. And then that's when I had the encounter like a few seconds later was after I went back and tried to take photos. That's when I felt like something was behind me, watching me.
Have you been back into the woods with Scooter since that experience happened?
Yeah, I have. Quite a few times.
Wow, so not only was Scooter with you when you had the encounters that you told us about in episode 437, but he was with you when you had this most recent one. When you went back into the woods after this most recent encounter, did you have to drag him in, or did he still fully go?
No. Scooter's still very much gung-ho about going on walks and going out and going into places like this. I think he forgets about these things until one decides to show up, so.
Then everything changes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how it normally is. All right, Jason, you've collected reports from Dogman eyewitnesses that you plan to share with us tonight. Please do that now.
All right. The first one is from a guy named Brandon Dunn. His story reads as follows. It says, for those of you that are from Tennessee, if you know where Bean Station is and know where Lakeshore is in Bean Station, I staying the weekend over at my cousin's house, and I was 15 at the time. So on Friday around dusk, me and my cousin were down at his buddy's dad's house waiting on his buddy to get home. They lived next door. So me and my cousin was just shooting the gossip. I'm not going to mention what he really said, but then he goes on to say, something caught my eye around the back of my buddy's house, and I kept looking and started showing, and it started showing itself. It stood at least 7 feet tall with long black fur, long pointed ears, and red glowing eyes, and a long snout with some big claws. It scared me and my cousin half to death after we noticed it, and said to ourselves, if you don't pay it any mind, it will leave you alone. So I just left it be and watched it slowly go away. Then the next night, he was outside his house talking. We heard a big tree fall out of nowhere, and then we heard growling and grunting, and it sounded like it was clawing at something. And then that night, my cousin told me about where it tried to attack him and his buddy. He was 16 when this happened. So that's from Brandon Dunn. And I have a couple others here. This encounter comes to me from one of my followers on Facebook. Her name is Heidi Wyndham. This encounter happened in Iceland, and her encounter goes on to read saying, I saw one when I was a kid around 7 years old in Iceland. I was at my grandmother's house looking out the kitchen window towards the field, which was her backyard, and I saw a wolf standing there upright as if it was completely normal. It looked at me, then I ducked down and told my grandmother, but when I looked back, it was gone. I remember it clear to this day, 38 years later, been dealing with weird stuff ever since. That's from Heidi. I have a few more here. This is from one of my page followers as well. Her name is Allie, and this happened back in 2018 in Oklahoma. So her encounter goes as follows. It says, so our old neighborhood, the elderly lady warned me of wolf people that lived in the area. She said they usually don't bother anyone but to be aware of them. I had 3 large pit bulls, 2 females, and 1 male in August of 2018. My dog was killed in our fenced-in backyard, and he was killed during a severe thunderstorm. The 2 females were fine, but terrified. They wouldn't go outside alone again ever. After my male was killed, I did not look at his body. I was too distraught, but my husband said something very large had to have killed him. His neck was broken and there was blood coming out of his nose. That is from Eyewitness Allie. She's one of my original page followers. Then I have an encounter from, he is my assistant on my Facebook page, and he's one of the, I think he's one of the first followers that I ever got on my Facebook page here. And he has quite a few experiences that people have told him about too, but I don't think I'll have time to get into those. This is from Ben, and it goes on to say, me and a friend were camping out in a fort we had made. I was about 19 at the time, and this friend was 4 days older than me. This fort was about 6.5 feet tall, and only half the roof was there, and it was a piece of steel sliding. It was about 8.5 feet with logs for walls, and there was a door we had bungeed with pine brush. And it goes on to say that about 10:30 p.m., to give you an image of the layout where we were. At the time, I lived in a trailer on 20 acres with my dad. It was on a dirt back road. The yard around the trailer was slightly wooded. Then there was a field on the back of the property, and there was a wood line about 40 yards deep in the swamp. We were just inside of the wood line, maybe about 15 yards. Me and my friend had just finished roasting and eating hot dogs. Then about 100 yards to the east of us was an opposite wood line opening into a field. We heard a bunch of coyotes yipping. After being annoyed about a minute later, my friend says, God, I wish they would shut up. No sooner did he say that, we heard this strange scream, howl, noise kind of resembling a woman with a deeper voice, if it makes sense. Then the coyotes yelping, and then nothing for about 2 minutes. And when I say nothing, I mean no sound at all. I could literally hear my friend breathing. I asked what was that noise, being careful to whisper to my friend as I was shocked, and I whispered back, And he said he doesn't know. Just then, we heard something heavy moving right outside. And it moved up with a thump, 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 like a heavy person walking. We were frozen, started staring at each other. We had big knives with us, but that lended little security at this point. Then we heard a deep, loud snort. And then whatever it was went crashing into the swamp, not just running, literally crashing through being a swamp, breaking brushes and branches as it went. We heard it hit the water in the swamp, which was about thigh high. It never lost its momentum. So I'm assuming, having never seen it, that it was very big. I'm glad it never tried to get in, as it would not have been difficult. Hearing it crash through the swamp, I had no problem coming through the door that we made with brush and limbs. So that was one of Ben's encounters. And I have one more. This is a brief encounter. This is another encounter from my follower on Facebook, Allie. She's really, really, really neat lady. This encounter is very brief, and it goes on to say, I know that my stepdad is retired law enforcement, and he never believed in cryptids until he got a call and saw for himself. I wasn't allowed to go outside at dark anymore after that. He never told me what he saw or what happened. He just said there are things out there that you don't ever want to see, and this is for your own good and for your safety. So that's all I have to share for now.
Wow, Jason, you had an eyewitness from Iceland contact you. Sure sounds to me like you're off to a good start if you're reaching people in Iceland already. That's a great sign.
Yeah, our page, we have people from all over the world now that follow my Dogman Study Facebook page. We have almost 500 followers now, and I've only had the page up for like a few months now. So we are doing really well.
It sure sounds like it to me. Yeah, that's a really good start. If you had your druthers, Jason, where would you like to be with Dogman Study 5 years from now?
I would like to go out and do more field work. I really like that. It does make me uncomfortable still because of what I've went through with a few other encounters I've had, but I sort of just push myself through it and tell myself that I'm doing this to help spread the word, and the research I do could potentially save somebody's life. So that's why I don't tuck my tail and run. So.
That is, unless it's a good idea, in your opinion, when you're having an encounter. How many reports have you collected to date?
So far, I've got 27.
Yeah, that's a good start. That's not bad at all, especially considering you're just getting started.
Yeah. I've only been doing investigational work for almost a year now, because the area that I go to, there's a park here in San Francisco called Golden Gate Park, and it's a huge park. It's not just some small little normal sized park. This park reaches to the coastline. It's huge. There are wooded areas. There are walking trails. It's just a really huge park. I don't remember how many miles it covers, but it's a giant park. It is, from what I've come to know, Golden Gate Park is 2 times the size of Central Park in New York. That's a huge park.
Yes, it is. Yeah, I've been to Golden Gate Park, but I never knew it was that big. So, yeah, that is huge.
It's gigantic.
Yeah, sure sounds like it. If a Dogman eyewitness wants to share an encounter with you, what's the best way for them to do that? Your Facebook page?
Yes. Send me a message on my Facebook page, or they can shoot me an email to my email box, and the email is cryptozoology dogmanstudy@gmail.com.
That makes it really easy. Well, Jason, I can't thank you enough for coming on and telling us about Dogman Study and everything else about your encounter that you just had and whatnot. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you. I am happy to have been a part of your show again. I really enjoy listening to all your episodes and stuff. So thank you so much.
Well, you're welcome. Thanks again so much for coming on and have a great night.